Coach, great to have you with us on BYU Sports Nation as you now enter into the Big 12. And I think what I want to know first and foremost is what's the most challenging part of going from the Pac-12 and that style of play to now an expanded Big 12 and maybe some different nuances about the Big 12. So what differences are you anticipating as you move into a new conference?
Yeah, well, the Big 12 defensively is there's not a scheme that's consistent. So in the Pac-12, everybody's 4 down. You have a few teams that'll hop into the odd front, like Cal and Oregon did, hop into the odd every once in a while, but it was just under, disguised as odd. Whereas the Big 12, you play 4 down, you play traditional odd, you play odd 5s, you play 4 down, 3 high safety defense, you play 3 high safety defense. So how you train and how you prepare to go versus that, you have to build that into your schedule in fall camp because you can't just prepare your guys for a brand new scheme every single week that you've never prepared for. So how do you build that into practice time throughout fall camp? And I think that's the biggest challenge on that side of the ball. On the defensive side of the ball, you know, the last league we were just in was very quarterback driven, very open, very get the ball out, drop back passing game. And contrary to what people believe, this league now has went full circle and gone really back to 21 and 12 personnel, smash mouth football, old school football. And you've got to be able to put your face on people and stop the run. And that's where this league starts. So it's kind of drastically different leagues, and you have to practice for that. You can't just say, oh, we play this team this week. You have to have a plan to play that throughout the season.
Yeah,
throughout fall camp.
One of the strongest conferences in terms of running back play, right? I mean, just super deep. We've gotten an opportunity to speak to some of them today. Off camera, you spoke a little bit about culture coming in. Year 2. What are some of the things that you have done to really to implement that strong character within the locker room and throughout the entire football office?
Yeah, I think it all starts at the top, how you carry yourself. And I think from our coaching staff to everybody in the building, how you treat people. People are only going to be what they see, right? So if our coaches aren't leaders, if our coaches aren't opening doors for people, if our coaches aren't showing up early, I think that's where it all starts. If our coaches aren't taking notes in meetings, if our coaches aren't pouring in and building relationships with players, then why should the players pour in and build relationships with each other? And one thing we do is we split up into 10 teams. We have 10 guys that are voted on our leadership council, split up into 10 teams, and they compete. It's posted on the boards. It's top lifts for the day. It is top speeds for the day, and they get points. If you show up late, you lose points for your team. If you miss an academic meeting, you lose points. If you pick up trash, somebody sees it, you gain points. And it gets posted. And it's just accountability for everything you do all day.
Yeah.
And I think people respond to that, in my opinion.
No question. I was a part of teams that a lot of the stuff we did off the field kind of bled into the environment or the culture, if you will, in the locker room and our on the field play. Being able to kind of have that synergy, across the board, being able to have that camaraderie across the board definitely helps out, and you see the result on the field. You also see during those times, during those those competitions and games, you see who the leaders are and who are the guys that kind of stand out above the rest that are really going to take ownership of the team. You've added 2 quarterbacks through the transfer portal to your roster. Can you talk a little bit about Sam and Jeff and kind of what they brought to the team thus far? Yeah,
Sam, young guy, passionate, man, loves it. And I think anytime you want to give somebody the reins to a program, you want to give it to somebody who cares like you care. You want to give it to somebody who breathes it and lives it and just embodies it. And I think that's what he does. And he doesn't make the same mistake twice, can extend plays, can make every throw on the football field you would need to make, and he's smart. And he cares. And I think that combination, is there going to be growing pains with young guys? Oh, yeah, that's part of it. How do we protect them as a coach? And that's the challenge, is to protect them. And in terms of Jeff is the exact opposite. Jeff is literally a guy who started for 4 different years straight in college football as an opening game starter. He was one of the top guys in the portal 18 months ago, had a bad stint in his last school, but that guy's still in there. It's now we have a more mature guy who started 4 teams or 4 seasons. People have deemed him as the best player at that position, and he's a vet. And he's super talented. So I think having both old and young and letting those guys battle and compete in a healthy competition is what football's about. That's what sport is about.
Absolutely.
Both Sam Levitt and Jeff Sims will put on quite a quarterback battle, I'm sure, when you get going. When does camp open up specifically for Arizona State?
The 31st.
Okay, so the 31st, it gets going. And I've talked to several head coaches, including Kalani Sitake, who said, until you're a head coach for the first time, you just don't really know. Like you can't, like you think you're ready, and then you go through it and you're like, whoa, there's a lot to be learned. So what was like overwhelming that you learned in terms of lessons in the early part of being a head coach that's going to prepare you now for where you head into with Arizona State?
Yeah, how much football you can't do. I mean, I love football. I'm a high school coach. I coach youth ball. I got into this coaching freshman linebackers and coaching a 7th and 8th grade team. I had no connections to anybody in college athletics. I love coaching, and how much non-coaching you do is by far everybody warns you, everybody tells you, but how do you can't realize it until you're in it and you're trying to create game plans and you get pulled into 9 different meetings. You have to empower and trust people. And I think that is the hardest thing to do, in my opinion, that I have learned is I'm not the smartest dude in the room, not the smartest coach. Schemes are great. Culture matters. How you play the game matters, not what's being called. The best teams in the country are going to call whatever they want to call on 3rd and 1 and convert. Whatever they want to call on 4th and 4 with the game on the line, everybody knows it. And the defense is going to play man coverage. Are they going to execute, or are you going to execute? Everybody knows it is going to be a rub route versus man coverage. Who's more prepared to do it?
Yeah.
And who can do it better? And that's what I learned. Trust people, empower people.
Yeah, a lot of being a head coach, right, is culture setting and then who you bring on to the ship, right? Specifically with the players, though, Coach, what is there somebody in that locker room that we may not know about that we should know about, or that is going to surprise us, or somebody that you think is going to really leave their mark on the season this year?
Yeah, I think Jordan Tyson. I think somebody that, didn't play last year. He was a freshman All-American, Pac-12 Player of the Year, I believe, or something like that at Colorado. Transferred last year. We knew he wasn't going to play. Wide out for us. And he's had an unbelievable spring ball. He's dialed in. His brother just got drafted in basketball in the NBA draft. So he's really
good genetics.
Good genetics. He's got good genetics. And I'm super fired up for him.
Kenny Dillingham was with us on BYU Sports Nation, the head coach of Arizona State. So last year, Neil Brown was picked to finish last with West Virginia, and he was not happy about it. And then they went on the field and they said, we're a top 5 Big 12 team. What do you take from something like that when your own team is picked to finish last and the proverbial chip on the shoulder, and how do you use that, if at all, to motivate your players?
Well, you have to use it. I mean, everybody in all the books, they tell you only internal motivation matters. That's a bunch of BS, right? Let's just be honest. Like, everybody gets motivated through external factors, and I think that's one of them. Is it a fair evaluation of the program over the last 3 years? Oh, yeah. And that's what I told the guys. This is perfectly fair. I support it. Prove them wrong.
Yeah. That fueled me when I was a player. When I saw things like that, especially, with me personally not seeing my name on the, preseason All-American list or the pre-all-conference list, like that fueled my fire. That got me into the weight room, an extra time that day for a 2-a-day, or got me into the gym to, catch balls or whatever, right? Like it definitely, it'll light a fire.
100%.
So at this point, everyone wants to know what you feel most confident in. So if you're talking Arizona State fans or Big 12 football fans, like, what do you feel like you know about your team that you're most confident in going into the 2024 season?
That we're going to fight. That's it. I don't know about anything else, but our guys are going to fight every snap until the last whistle blows. We're going to fight and we're going to compete, because that's what the entire program is about. Everything we do is about fighting and competing.
Austin, are you motivated?
You love ball.
I'm motivated
love it.
right
You
now.
love ball.
Love it.
And I love it. And that type of attitude, I'm telling you, as a player, when your head coach is bought in and your head coach is authentic about the fire that he exudes and the motivation behind it, man, it's hard not to go on the field and freaking fight your guts off for the guys. So I'm excited. Let's go suit up right now.
Let's do it. All right.
With NIL, maybe we can bring you back.
You don't want this. This looks nasty under here. This is a bad situation.
Again, a guy who's caught passes from Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Why not go catch a few passes from Jeff and Sam, right?
I mean, let's go. And that Tempe Heat, good lather.
Any final question about BYU. You get the Cougars in Tempe on November 23rd. At this juncture, what do you know about Kalani Sitake and BYU?
Yeah, I mean, I've followed his career. We've actually went versus him when I was at Arizona State last, before he became the head coach. One of the best defensive coordinators in college football. I mean, really, he changes. His scheme was so simple. I know they've made some adjustments over the last year, but it's still his handprints are all over it. And his teams are tough. His teams are physical. They want to stop the run, and they want to do things differently. And I think that's one thing you always have to prepare for when you play him, is he wants to be different in a good way, a little bit different than everybody else you play. He wants that advantage on the defensive side of the ball. So it's a guy that you've really got to dive into when you prepare for, because you don't know the variety of schemes that he can bring from the same look. You got to really dive into what is that going to be this week, and you got to be ready to play 4 quarters of smash mouth football.
Coach, great to talk with you. We appreciate the time on BYU Sports Nation, and we're excited to see what Arizona State does. Take that fire and that accountability and go next level.
No question. Yeah, it's great talking with you, Coach.
Appreciate it. Appreciate y'all having me.